Right. Oh, damn, we in into nitty gritty. All right.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, or should I say good night. I'm here with Jordan Taylor. Oops, sorry about that. And tonight we are going to present a program, if you will. And the program is entitled Homosexuality and the Church. This is going to be a provocative discussion. And anybody is welcome to come in and chime in into this program. So, how we're going to start this thing off first is that we're going to have the discussion, and then after for the first hour, and then the second hour, everybody's going to come with all their questions. So I would like Jordan to start, because he is the one that gave the inspiration for this idea to talk about this topic. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I turn over hosting duties to Jordan.
All right. So, good night, everybody. First of all, bro, I just want to thank you for having me here. All this quarantine free time gives you a lot of time to think about things. And
exactly.
Normally, I'm like a reserved individual. I like to sit back and watch rather than speak what's on my mind. But I think it's just a time to get up out that good old comfort zone.
Exactly.
So thank you for encouraging me to do this, because I wasn't going to willingly do this at first. Disclaimer, I don't know all the answers to all the questions. It's just group discussion. I'm just sharing my thoughts, my ideas on the topic at hand. So just a disclaimer. So let's kind of dive into it a little bit. So I know the topic is homosexuality and how Christians are supposed to interact, but let's kind of change it, because there's more than one sexual orientation out there. It's not just homosexuality. So I did my research, and it's like the LGBTQ community, they got a bunch of other things added. So they go by LGBTQ plus. There's like 2 A's and an I, and I guess it's like an ever expanding thing. I'm being so serious. It just keeps getting more and more and more and more. And as Christians, we gotta know how to be able to navigate and deal with all types of people, whether they be gay, straight, lesbian, queer, or the other letters.
Right.
So this is one of those topics that's not a lot of people want to talk about it, because it's a very sensitive topic.
That's right. Right.
But honestly, we need to have a conversation like this, because it's not always about the feel good messages. Sometimes it's not about the, oh, Jesus will save me, or all that good lovey-dovey stuff that we all are accustomed to. We need to talk about it.
Exactly.
You can't keep sweeping it under the rug all the time, because some of us, myself included, we have to interact with these type of people. You know what I'm saying? My job, where I'm at now, there's plenty of people that are homosexual, but do I, because I'm a Christian, treat them any type of way? Nah, because when you're in the military, you have to get the overall mission done. That's what we get paid taxpayer dollars for,
Right.
So if I got a grievance against somebody because their sexual orientation is different from mine, I'm wasting taxpayer dollars by not getting my job done. You know what I'm saying? And on a smaller scale, it may not be something as big as a mission safeguarding the nation's security or whatever. It could be something as far as working at Walgreens or Walmart, and you just so happen to have a coworker that's part of the LGBTQ plus community. You gotta know how to navigate and communicate with these type of individuals, because at the end of the day, this is not going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? It was always something that it wasn't that big back in the day. Didn't have as much presence as it does now. But it's recently, it's in media, it's in our everyday life now, and it's just going to continue to grow. So we have to talk about it. We have to figure out, how do I approach these type of people? How do I interact with them? The Bible says it's a sin. And I'm kind of going to go into all that throughout the course of this discussion. I will throw like a couple questions out there that I kind of want you to answer. A couple monkey wrenches in
Right.
just to get that good old brain, going.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So, I mean, as we all know, anything outside of God's original plan is considered sin. Man and man, woman and woman, non-binary, binary, the whole works. If it's not originally what God had created, like man, Adam and Eve, then it's sin. And sin is defined as the transgression of the law.
Right.
Right. And we can go into all the different scriptures in the Bible, like Leviticus 18:22 and Leviticus 20:13, that talks directly about homosexuality and why is it bad and its vanities and things like that. That's just to name a few. The whole Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve thing,
Right.
that we all used to clown about back in the day. These relations are explicitly prohibited in the Bible and are a violation of the seventh commandment,
Right.
which is thou shalt not commit adultery. And I know it doesn't say directly in the commandment, it does not say directly, oh yeah, homosexuality right there next to adultery, but it's found like in other parts, like deeper in the Bible, it breaks it down as far as what it is, because adultery, it covers all the sexual sin, even though it doesn't directly say it right there in that verse where the commandment is found.
Right.
Because if we really wanted to name everything that we weren't supposed to do, it wouldn't be the 10 commandments anymore.
Right.
We would have way more than 10, but God ordained it to be 10.
Right.
But I gotta ask this question though.
Sure.
Do you think it's condoning? Do you think, in a sense, if you do happen to have like a good relationship with a coworker that is of the LGBT, I'm gonna keep messing this up all day, LGBTQ plus community, are we necessarily condoning the fact that they are part of this community? How do you feel?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't feel like we're condoning anything. What it is that, you have certain rules that are set in place at work. You can't discriminate against anybody because of their race, color, creed, or sexuality. And so while working in the workplace, right, it's not something that directly affects you. I believe unless you're gay yourself or whatever, it's not something that directly affects you. As long as they don't try to violate you and you don't try to violate them, everything should be good. But at the end of the day, you're always going to come in contact with someone who is gay or homosexual on the job. And the thing is that you treat them just like anybody else, in person, you're a human being. How you doing? Good morning. You know what I mean? At the job, there are a few gay coworkers that I have, and the majority of them are female, and I still treat them the same. Why? Because it's all about mutual respect. At the same time, I can still have my own convictions and disagree that they've made the choice, to have that lifestyle or to follow it. But at the same time, as I am in the workplace, this is not something that directly affects me. My life is not involved in it. This is somebody that I may see and I say hello to them and we talk about, the work day or something funny that we saw, so I wouldn't say that we're condoning it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In other situations, such as how the church handles it, because now there are a lot of churches that are popping up that are having gay ministers, both male and female. There's a church called Vision Church in Atlanta. I remember I want to say about 10 years ago, Lexi Allen from the Word Network, she did an interview with a gay minister, and they had the pastor and the first gentleman, which that blew me away. It shocked me. You know what I mean? But a lot of these churches, and I don't even want to call them churches because they're not set up in the same structure. These are men and women and women that still think it's okay to worship God, you know, and at the same time keep their beliefs. But the thing is that, you know, you lose something in the process, you know, and that might cost you your salvation. You know what I mean? There are a lot of churches out there. As a matter of fact, I remember back in 2008, right? There was a gentleman that came to Lebanon that presented a program about, you know, dealing with gay people and all that. And in 1995, there was an organization called Glow Friends, which was actually a gay Adventist organization, right? And what happened was that the Adventist church ended up having to sue them because they had the name Adventist in their name. At that point in 1995, the term Seventh-day Adventist had not been trademarked, it had not been copyrighted. So since like the 1800s, this name was just used freely, and we never really had a copyright on it until that situation happened. So, you know, in that regard, you know, you cannot claim that you're a part of this particular organization if you're doing something that's contrary to the word of God or scripture. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I don't wanna veer off topic, but yeah, basically.
No. It was good. It was good. It's good. You know, to kind of go back to the question as far as whether we're condoning it. Yeah, I definitely agree. We're not necessarily condoning the behavior, you know, which I kind of, I'm not trying to like jump ahead of everything that I have, but
Right.
you know, I definitely agree. We don't necessarily condone the behavior just by associating with them. I mean, obviously there's got to be a line that's crossed, you know, that's got to be there if you're going to entertain, you know, we're not trying to like make them seem like they're like aliens or like they're like strangers or not human. They're like foreign extraterrestrials. Like they're human beings too,
Exactly.
you know, and our job here isn't to judge. And I know that's really hard for like some of the older folks to really kind of get into their mindset, because this wasn't there. This wasn't like as a parent back in their day. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like if you were gay, like in the military, like the don't ask, don't tell, like you had a lot of things where it wasn't popular to be vocal about these things. A lot of people had to do this in secret. And so like society was just like, okay, all right, we have man and woman, and anything else we're not really going to entertain.
Right.
So I can understand like the older folks, like when they see it, they're like, nah, like, nope, I don't like that. Nope, nope. I don't like what you're doing. Absolutely not. Nope,
Exactly.
nope. And then you get those folks that are like, she likes women or he likes men. I'm gonna pray the gay out of them. And it's like, okay, I mean, I highly encourage you to pray for, you know, people that you feel like have strayed away, but to pray the gay out of someone,
Right.
you can't change nobody. You're not God. Remember that. All we can do is offer prayers, but we shouldn't be praying spitefully, you know? And that's why a lot of them leave the church. They're like, all right, well, since I'm not accepted here, then I'm just going to go fully embrace what I feel inside myself that I'm attracted to. And we lose a lot of people that way.
Right. I mean, you know, I just want to touch on a point that you had made. You had mentioned something about, sorry, hold on.
Bless you.
You had mentioned something about the military and the fact that they had this policy in effect called "Don't Ask, Don't Tell," right?
Mm-hmm.
And lately, I want to say over the last maybe like 7 or 8 years, I've heard stories from both men and women that have been out of the army that they now identify themselves as transgender. They've changed their sex, although that is not physically or internally possible.
Mm-hmm.
But they've gone through all that, you know, having to hide the fact that they were and not being able to tell anybody, you know. So a lot of it is happening more, you know. So The armed forces can't be like now, like, oh, well, you can't serve because of X, Y, Z. The thing is that you can't discriminate. If a person does their job well, they're whoever that they decide to identify as, it's not going to affect their performance in any way. You know, just like how now in certain states they have transgender cops. I didn't know that. I found out this information a couple of months ago, and I was shocked because I never thought I would see this. You know, um, but yeah, it's like now in this time in this day and age, you know, we're seeing a lot more. I remember back in 2003, I was looking at some schools, some high schools to transfer to. You know, I'm in 8th grade and all that. And
Mhm.
I found out, I was watching the news one day, and they said they're going to create a gay high school for boys and girls in Manhattan. I was shocked. I was like, wow. You know what I mean? And then now in school, they're teaching tolerance. So now a person that came in as a young man can now be a young lady. Now a person that was a young lady can now be a young man. And it's a different ball game, because how do you explain to your Christian children like that their friend Timmy has now turned into Tamara?
It's yeah,
Or how do you explain how Kathy has now turned into Kevin? That's a very difficult conversation to have with a child. And it's not like the
definitely.
child can't comprehend what's going on. Obviously, there's something different. Like back in my day, this was something that we never heard of. You know, although it was talked about in talk shows, it wasn't something that was national news. Now it's national news. Now you have actors and actresses that are of the LGBT community that are being activists and all these different things. So you're seeing it. So like
Hmm.
these kids have more images now, but also, and this is the last point that I want to make before you continue. Now, when it comes to sports, right? There are
Hmm.
young men that are now taking female hormones that are allowed to in high school that can run on girls track teams, and I feel like that's not fair, because what
Yeah,
about all of the natural born girls that worked hard in their freshman year and their senior year and their junior year, and now they get to their senior year and they're trying to go to college, they're trying to get a scholarship in track or in basketball, football, and they can't because the person that's ahead of them now decides that they want to identify as a female, but biologically they're male, and it puts them at a disadvantage because now it's like, okay, well, these people matter, we have to include them too. You don't have to include everything. It's the same thing with the bathroom situation. You can make a unisex bathroom if it's that much of a big deal. But realistically, a boy is not supposed to go into a female's bathroom, and a female is not supposed to go into a gentleman's bathroom. It's just it's logic. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you know, your mother may have taken you when you were a child at church. She may have taken you into the women's bathroom to clean you up and stuff like that. You know, we've seen that. But as far as you going in there by yourself, like, no, that's a big no right there. Um, but that's my point on it. Like in the military now, it's prevalent, it's real, and it's come to the point where you shouldn't have to ask anybody about nothing. If you can perform your job well and your sexuality doesn't affect your performance and how you do things, then it's like, yo, take care of your business, do what you got to do. At the end of the day, that's it, you know. But we just have to be, we got to be aware that we're gonna have to have these conversations with our children when they get older, you know.
definitely, definitely. So I kind of want to go back to the military thing. So being in the military,
Right.
going through this change,
Right.
we actually have to get training on how to interact with those that are transgender. Like the military actually pays for the surgery, because now it's more of like this is my right to identify as whatever I want or whoever I want. So the military has made a lot of appropriations, for those that feel like they don't belong or basically identify as the gender that they actually are.
Right.
So being in the military now is like, all right, so now I kind of, I got to get trained on how to talk to these people or interact with people who are of transgender. And I got to basically kind of like tread lightly, tiptoe around, certain things. Like I'm not trying to offend them
Right.
because now because of the scale in which this kind of thing is you have to be very politically correct when dealing with these type of issues, which I'll definitely get into as we get further and further into this.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. So since we're talking about like the basis of where it came from and like how it was back in the day, so I don't know if you know, but I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Okay.
But the Constitution of the United States was actually based on the Ten Commandments.
Really?
Yes, okay, so let me break it down for you. So the first four of the Ten Commandments are our obligation to God.
Right.
Right? The last six are our duties that are required of us to our fellow man.
Right.
So obviously, because we have a God that wants us to freely choose him, the first four are not mandated in the Constitution.
Right.
So like you're able to choose what faith or, you know, belief you wanna practice. You have freedom of religion, right? But the last six, you know, obviously is like, don't murder nobody, don't steal. That's why in courtrooms you're required to raise your right hand and swear it on the Bible. You're supposed, because you can't bear false witness in the court.
Right.
So you see how some of these are tailoring because we all know how, like back in the day, Rome, you know, the Crusades, killing people that didn't really line up with their beliefs, or like people that didn't follow in their faith. That was when the church and the state were one entity, and you know, that was when things were getting crazy. So obviously, our founding fathers had a established understanding about the faith, about the Ten Commandments, about God and religion. So when they came to this new land and wanted to get away from the unity of the church and the state, they wanted to create a land in which, you know, you can pretty much, you know, that had order and, you know, followed in the commandments of God as he ordained it. But yeah, I in my research, I was kind of surprised when I found out about that as well, because I had no idea.
I mean, I would think that would make sense. And the only reason why I say that is because America, even though I don't believe it, you know, America somewhat had this concept of being founded as a Christian nation. And yeah, they do that stuff in the courtroom, you know, put your hand on the Bible and swear and all that. But it's like a lot of the stuff that's going on nowadays, it's not really Christian. I mean, you removed prayer out of schools.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch on all that. I promise.
So it's like to me, you know, yeah, I can understand, but at the same time, when I see a lot of the things that have been done in this nation, and you already know what I'm getting at, what's been going on lately, what happened earlier this week, we've seen the riots, we've seen a lot of different things. So it's like for right now, you know, my heart hurts for our people.
I'm telling you,
again, it's been 8 people in 1 month.
I'm telling you, like it makes me sick. It just makes me numb. It hurts. Like, and we can definitely, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. I don't have the energy for it right now, but it's crazy. It really is crazy with all the stuff that goes on in the world. Like, think about how 2020 kind of like began. You know, we almost went to war. Kobe died. And now, like, we've been dealing with this pandemic.
Right.
Like, it's just been crazy. And then, you know, obviously with the recent stuff, it's just getting worse. And can't forget the murder hornets. Can't forget those.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But continue with what you were saying about the Constitution.
Yeah, so the Constitution is pretty much based on the Ten Commandments. So, like I was saying, the first four are obligations, which are non-enforceable because God wants us to freely choose him and follow in the commandments. and the moths. Can't forget about the moths. Yeah, so the last 6 are our duties that we're required to, our fellow men, our fellow human beings. But the thing is, kind of going back to what you were saying, like, we live in an age where the law is changing.
Right.
And here's the thing: if the original law, the Constitution, was based off of the 10 Commandments, which is God's law,
right,
there's changes in not the Constitution itself, but the laws that govern this fine country that we live in. Because think about it, tailoring back to homosexuality. Once they got the backing of the NAACP and
right.
changed the light of the issue from a morality issue to a civil rights issue, that's when everything changed. That's when, because if you notice, there was no official voting. There was no voting process on the legislation involved with basically legalizing same-sex marriage and stuff like that. Nobody voted on that.
Right.
Because there was such a backing behind it. Politicians, lawmakers kind of just signed it in.
Right.
But was that originally part of the original laws that were set? If the law that was governing the land is based on God's law, was this originally part of it? Or are we making changes because we're being politically correct?
Yeah, I see where you're getting at, man.
Mm-hmm. And this, like, where I'm going, I'm putting both sides. I'm putting the biblical, historical perspective, and then I'm going to get into the personal aspect of it, as far as like from the LGBTQ side.
Right.
So if there's anybody watching and thinking like, oh, he's just picking at us, he's just poking, just telling us what the Bible says, and being degrading, I'm not. I'm building somewhere. I'm getting somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, if you really look at it, lately, well, not lately, but like throughout the course of history, we've been making changes to our liking, to what we feel like the law should be. But if the law was originally what God ordained it to be, and we're making changes, that's basically us taking God's law into our own hands and executing it as we see fit.
Right.
So this kind of ties into how Christians and people of the LGBTQ plus community kind of have to coexist, and because the law has been changed, the state law has been changed to where now multiple states, not every state, because I think there's still some that are not like with the motion, but some states have legalized same-sex marriage.
Right.
But if we look at God's law, the original union was between a man and a woman, and that was it. No more, no less. But because we live in this age where we're trying to change the law, we change it to reflect what we want it to be. And because there was such a big backing behind it, because the NAACP was involved and it had a huge political following, it got the legislation passed, and now we have a society where this is okay, right? Because if you ever notice in politics, because this all happened, it got pushed during the presidency of President Obama. If you looked at previous interviews with President Obama and Hillary Clinton, at first they were completely against it. They were like, no, I don't believe in that. I believe in the traditional views of what marriage should be, a man and a woman, not a man and a man. But fast forward a couple of years later, in more recent interviews, they're like, yeah, Why is that? Because as a politician, the one thing you don't want to do is lose your political power.
Right.
You don't want to go against something and then be viewed as like a discriminatory person.
Right.
So Obama pretty much got forced to comply with something that he normally or like internally did not agree with.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and that's pretty much how it just kept flowing, because nobody wants to stand up and have the grounds to go against it. Because now that it goes from an issue of being against morals to being looked at as a civil rights issue, now it's like, all right, if you go against it, you look like you just hate people, or
Right.
you don't like the liberties afforded to other people that are fighting for a noble cause.
Right. I mean, that's deep. And what you said about political power, you know, it draws everything together, because I understand, like, I didn't even know that Obama was against it at first, because what I heard was that, when he was out there, he became president and everything. Like,
Well, that interview was before his presidency.
of course. That was when
Mm-hmm.
I guess him and Hillary were still doing the debates and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, here's the thing. Political power, that's good, but also at the same time, you end up sacrificing your own beliefs just for popularity. But I'm saying, is it really worth it at the end of the day? Because,
I mean, as a politician, yeah, your political view and your political power is everything. If you're trying to stay high in the government, or, be a favorite, you got to stay well liked. In order to stay liked, you got to stay relevant. In order to stay relevant, you have to follow the things that are popular or important to today's society. And during that time, the outrage of homosexuality, people of that group feeling like they're being discriminated against, that was a big political thing. And for any politician to be like, oh, nah, we're just going to stick to the traditional laws. We're not even going to recognize this, because of the backing that they had, it looked like more of a civil rights issue. So now it's like, all right, do I really want to go against this? Not looking good for my standings to get reelected into the office. So might as well bite this bullet, stay. And that's the crappy thing about politics, is that it's all about popularity. It's all about backing, if you have the Democratic vote, or things of that nature.
right. And the thing is, right, another thing I just thought of. So what if you're a Christian? How does that affect your spiritual life with God?
It's a conflict. It is a conflict. If you are homosexual and you trying to follow God, it's going to be a conflict, because you're going to be fighting against your moral view, which you feel like it's a part of who you are as a person.
Right.
And you're going to be conflicted against following God, because we know what the Bible says. We know what his teachings tell us that we're supposed to do and the way that we're supposed to live. So there's always going to be that internal conflict going on, because it's the Bible says you can't have two masters. Are you going to listen? Are you going to follow yourself, or are you going to follow God? And you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
You have to pick one. You can't have both. And that's what a lot of people end up. They're like, well, the Bible is kind of this overbearing thing that's like, it has a bunch of thou shalts and thou shalt nots. I don't know if I really want to follow this, especially like the way that I'm feeling. If I like guys, this definitely goes against what the Bible says I'm supposed to. So which one is it? Do I follow me, or do I follow God? Like, and some people, they're like, you know what? My relationship with God is complicated right now. I don't think he's going to really understand, or I don't feel like it right now. I need to figure out within myself. And then, they take up, what they feel is right, and they live that lifestyle or whatever.
Right.
and then it's like it's hard to go back because they're so deep in following what they morally feel is right. It's kind of hard to come back to God because then they feel bad. They're like, oh well, this is bad before maybe nah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, personally, I feel like if you had these individuals that were struggling with these issues, if they could go to their favorite elder or pastor in the church and just talk about this stuff, I think it would be easier.
Is it easy? But is it easy to talk? Because like, think about it. If this stuff was not prevalent, and in the older generation, and they're like, their first response is like, nah, I'm gonna pray this gay out you. Nope, 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 nope. Do you feel someone would ever really feel comfortable going to someone that, and the pastor is like supposed to be the head of the church, right? Or the elder, are you gonna really feel comfortable going straight to that person about this? Are you really? Possibly not. Because if you got church people out here like pretty much pointing a finger at you, oh, you're gay, this, that, and the third. We know the stigmas, like, church people talk, they gossip, they act like their poop don't stink or whatever, and they point fingers like, oh, that boy, he over here doing the nasty stuff, being what how does Jamaican say, the fish, being a fish. So it's like, so it's kind of difficult for like you to just get up and say, all right, I'm experiencing this. Let me go talk to the pastor.
Right. And speaking of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, I want to say around 2013 or 2014, there was a very prominent minister that used to be an assistant pastor at a local church, not too far from. Hold on, let me chill and be careful what I'm saying. But anyway, They found out that this guy was not practicing what the Bible said, that he was engaged in a relationship with another male, and he was removed from the church. After that, he started his own church, and I think anybody that is around the Queens area, you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm not gonna do name drops because I'm not messy like that, but anyway, a lot of people from that church where he was the assistant pastor of, they supported him. They didn't know what was the situation or why he got removed. I think there's some people that do, and then there's some people that don't. But basically, at the end of the day, what happened was that they started supporting him. He had a band, full ministry, all these different things. And I'm like, how could you support someone that is not following the laws of God? He's practicing homosexuality, and he's not living right before God, and he's preaching before you. How can you allow someone to do that? And that's not to say that you don't have pimps, and that's not to say you don't have dudes that are preaching on the pulpit, but the night before church they're sleeping with some woman, or they have women in their bed. That's not to say that there's not a thief that's up there on the pulpit. The thing is that if you're not living right by the standards of God, and it doesn't matter what it is that you do, you shouldn't hold that position, period. There was a woman who, I believe in 2016 or 17, she told her congregation that she got pregnant by her boyfriend or fiance, and that she wasn't going to sit down for a year out of the church, that she was going to continue to preach the word of God while she was pregnant, which made absolutely no sense to me. But yeah, and in reference to going to someone in the church speaking about it, 9 times out of 10, if you know that your church is messy, or you know that there's a particular group of people that just like to talk all day and are really not there to do nothing else but to spread your business, it might be best just to see a psychiatrist, because some people say like, yo, it's not best to go and get counseled by your pastor or to speak to this person or that person, because there is a chance that they could spread your information to somebody else. And then the next thing you know, you walk into church the next week and you're being outed for this, and then you got to go in and leave permanently and never return. And situations like that, if someone blows your spot up, it's like, boom, you're done. Like, people think that you're not usable by God anymore, but it's like, the way that I feel is that before it even comes to that point, there should be a healthy dialogue. If you're going to pray with somebody, Don't pray because you think that they're wicked because they're dealing with struggling or having a particular affliction. You should be praying for them that, okay, God, I don't know what to do in this situation. So I'm crying out to you. I'm calling out to you. You know, like I'm just asking you, Lord, I'm coming before you as humbly as I know how. That's how I will put it. But there's some people, they just don't understand. And let me say another thing. Within our churches, there are gay members on the low. You're not going to know about it. You're not going to hear about it. But there are. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm pretty sure, you know, you've probably gone to a church in the past and you've seen someone act a little, you know, weird. Like, I remember years ago, I went to go march with the Pathfinders. This is September, October 2009. And we went to, I believe we went to Brooklyn. And there was this church out there, you know, nice little Haitian church. And one of the people that were there, he was the only boy in the drum corps that played cymbals. Mad effeminate, all that, you know. It was always hanging with the girls. And like, we knew, we could tell, but it's like, our thing was, yo, we're there to play. Let's play these drums, get in, get out, that's it. You know, so it wasn't a thing of like, yo, look at this dude over here. Nah. You know, at the end of the day, he was still in church. You know? Like, so the main thing that what we gotta do is we gotta continue to pray for these people, because a lot of us know that there's some individuals out there that are struggling. You don't want to say anything because you don't want to rock the boat. But if anything, just pray for those people. Even if they don't ask you to. You gotta pray.
We can do. That's literally all we can do, honestly. And just not treat them any type of way, as if like they got a disease or something, or like we should not be so like, because we're supposed to reach and teach the nation. We're supposed to love everybody. We're not supposed to shun them or make them feel like they're not loved. And I feel like that we do sometimes as Christians, is we make people feel unloved, unwelcomed. And that's not our purpose. That's not our job here. If we want, I mean, it's also not our job to change anybody or judge anybody. We need to limit that. We need to, because that's that thin barrier that's stopping us from truly receiving God sometimes.
You know, I'm glad that you say that. There was a gentleman, and I don't know if you ever seen this, but there's a song online with the Metro Praise Choir, right? Called "It Pays to Serve Jesus," right?
Right.
And let me see if I can find this on my phone real quick. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but you know, let me see if I can find it. Just bear with me one moment, brother.
No, you good. You good.
And this is from like 12. Oh, that's not the one. The one I'm thinking about. The original version is by Metro Praise, but this one was done by the Aeolians. Paul Heflin. That's the guy that I remember. All right, so I remember back in like fall 2019, right? I went to a concert that Beverly Burton was having, and I saw this brother Paul Heflin. He was singing and everything. He talked about how God delivered him out of homosexuality, how he was living a life sleeping with men and all these different things, and how God slowly brought him out after years of abuse of his body and all that. Now he's married, he has children, and he always tells that testimony. He did a concert at our church spring 2018, and he expressed the same sentiment, you know, and we don't normally hear about stories like that within the church, but that sometimes that's a story that not a lot of people want to tell because they fear that someone's going to judge them. People like, yo, yes, within the Adventist church, yes, there are gay people. but I was able to come out of it, you know? So at the end of the day, we have to understand, like, sometimes the individual has to want to seek God themselves. Like, I've heard stories where
Mm-hmm.
they've had conversion camps. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but conversion camps where they send these kids here and be like, oh, you know, we're gonna pray the gay away and make sure that you get restored. But it's like a camp. Let me tell you something. This is not this is not a place like Wildwood where someone is helping you to lose weight or get, or get healthier. That's not what it is. This is a sin issue. You can't be like, yo, we're gonna push all this stuff out of you. We're gonna make you right again. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with these people. The issue is that they're struggling. That's what a lot of people don't understand. They're struggling. You gotta pray for them. I don't understand whoever is dealing with the idea of having a conversion camp, because that doesn't make sense. And then these same people that go to these camps and come back out, they tell you their horror stories like, yo, this did nothing for me. The way they treated me, like, and honestly, to be legit, I feel like these are some people that's like, yo, I don't want to be this way. I feel like this is the only option. And some people don't realize, like, yo, you really have to go back to God. Sometimes you can't place your trust in man, because man will make the wrong decisions time and time again. If you got to get in a room by yourself and get on your knees and pray, or just read the scriptures, sometimes that's what you got to do. And there's people that are able to come out of it, and then there's others that are like, yo, nah, I love my life too much. I don't want to go back to God. But you got to understand, at the end of the day, if it is your desire to be delivered from that, that's what you want. And if you don't, you have to deal with the consequences later on down the line. The thing is that God gives us a choice. And I've been telling people lately, like, yo, we have free will to do whatever we want, right? But understand, free will, there comes consequences, and there also comes choices. You have a decision to make at the end of the day. Are you going to go the right path, or are you going to go down this direction? It's up to you. At the end of the day, I'm not going to preach to someone to be like, yo, you're disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, yo, you have free will that God has given you. But understand, with free will, you have to make a choice. Hold on.
Holding.
Yeah, but understand, right? Have a free will, you have a choice. So you could decide, all right, I want to follow God. Or you could be like, yo, I'm going to do my own thing. Forget all that church stuff. Whatever decision you make is going to affect you for the rest of your life. It's not only going to affect you, but it's going to affect your family and the people that you're going to meet and encounter in the future. But that's my 2 cents on that particular subject. But
Okay.
you
I respect it. All right, so I'm gonna continue. I mean, excellent points. So I'm gonna kind of steal one of those little points, though.
of course.
So, like, let's kind of look at things from the LGBTQ plus side of things. So, like, prior to me doing this little forum thing, I had spoken to like a lot of the people that I know that are, of that community. And the way they describe it is more of like, it's not a choice, because people say, oh, being gay is a choice. Some people say that it's a feeling.
Right.
They feel like it's like, if they don't like act on this feeling or accept this feeling, they feel like they're denying themselves. Right. And they can't be completely happy in life because they feel like they're denying who they truly are.
Right.
And I know that statement doesn't sit right with most Adventists, but then again, we have to remember our job here isn't to condemn anybody or cast judgment or try and change anybody. That's God's job. Exactly. We may not necessarily agree with their lifestyle, but they are still people that are entitled to be loved. Just as Christ loves us and treats us well,
Right.
we have to treat them the same way. Because are we not ambassadors for Christ? You know, Christ was with prostitutes and murderers and stuff like that. You know, did he treat them any type of way? No. He still loved them just as much as he loves us. You know, and I get it. Sometimes as Christians, we feel like we have an Ezekiel complex to where we feel like we have to go and tell the masses about God's word or risk having their blood on our hands.
You see, you just said a mouthful, man. But I'm gonna let you go on, man. I got my own thoughts on that. I'll let you go on, man.
I told you I did my research, man. I did my research on this.
Yeah,
but the thing is, we'll lose more souls if we don't change our approach. You know, because honestly, we do not keep the same energy when it comes to other sins as we do when it comes to homosexuality. We blow it up out of proportion, but we don't talk about the lying, the cheating, the stealing, you know, all these other things. We don't blow nearly in the proportion that we do. Oh, he's gay. Oh, this, that. We need to change our approach as Christians.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I could talk about, and there's certain situations that I don't want to blow up because I don't want to hurt anybody or to have anybody have to be dissatisfied with this video. So I'll just say this. Yes, adultery is one issue that is prevalent in the church. Nobody talks about it. You know, the fact of getting remarried more than once. And it's like, if you've gotten married over 3 times, you're still not satisfied, obviously that's a problem. I mean, are you looking for love, or like what is it that you were looking for? But there's a lot of different things. Sometimes people that steal, that might take money or skim money off of the collection plate, you know, a lot of different things. Like, we just don't know. And this video is going to run out in about 6 minutes. I'm going to start another one so that we can continue for But you know, at the end of the day, realistically, a lot of stuff we don't put on blast. Homosexuality is one of those things, like, yes, we put it on blast a lot, right? And other issues, like when people leave the church, sometimes you don't know the reasons why they left. It might have been something as simple as somebody's bothering them about them wearing their earrings or makeup, or somebody might have been looking at a girl's cleavage, which they're not supposed to do, and saying like, yo, your dress is too tight and your breasts are hanging out, popping out. It's like, there's a certain way to express certain things. You can come to somebody in love and be like, sister, I just want you to know that see how some of these men are looking at you at church, and I care about you, and I just want you to be aware, just to cover yourself. But also at the same time with that, if you're gonna do that, you got to go to the men and be like, listen, gentlemen, you can't objectify this woman. You shouldn't even be objectifying any woman, period, in the church. You know better than that. Let's work on protecting our sisters, not looking at them as sexual objects. But that's a topic we don't want to talk about. You know, we don't want to talk about that. But the men, let me tell you something, we're going to hold the women accountable. We got to hold the men accountable in the same regard. You know, that's personally how I feel, you know, and that's how it should be at the end of the day.
Right. So, like, hear me out when I say this. So, like, we talked about homosexuality, we talked about both sides of the spectrum. Now, let's talk about, how do we interact? So, this is just me, what I think. So, it's not set in stone. So, like, I feel like if we do have these people in our lives and we know that they are, you know, people of the LGBTQ community,
right?
I feel like, you know, and it's like, if you're in a work environment, you got to let people know what you represent, and you got to pray. Right. You know, you let people know up front, like, okay, this is what I believe. This is my faith. You know, this is what I stand for. You know, whether it's like working with them or you have people in church, like, y'all, you know, letting people know off rip, like, this is, I don't do this. I don't do that. And you just pray. And then you leave it at that. You leave it at that. And people, if they really respect you, they'll take heed. They won't disrespect you or anything like that. They'll know where that line is. So you won't have any fear or reprisal, like when you're in your work environments, as far as like, oh, well, such and such is gay. Okay, cool. He understands who I am as a person. He knows he's not gonna cross that line or do anything that's going, that I'm gonna take offense to. And do this for the struggling Adventists as well. Like they know just as much as we all do about the word and what it says. And all we can do is pray. Pray. That's it. Like, I feel like that's just the best way to move about it. We ain't got to be oppressing. And every time I see you, hey, you know what Leviticus says?
Right.
No, bro, I ain't going to do that to you. That's just going to draw you further and further away from God. You know, if I'm going to be a messenger, I'm going to be a good one,
And I know some people that are like that, that every time they see somebody, like, you know what I'm saying? I know, trust me, I know some people like that, man. I can't drop names like I said before.
Nah, we ain't dropping no names.
You know already, bro.
We not here to defame anybody. We just here to have this conversation, talk about it, bring some knowledge to people's minds. We ain't here to condemn nobody. Right. But I will say this, at the end, like you said, God's law still stands.
Exactly.
We all know what God has established and what the Bible says. And, if we don't admit where we're wrong, then we won't get help and we might die in our sin.
Exactly.
And this is not to discourage anybody that's got this going on. This is just to encourage you. The father, like, think about the prodigal son, went so far away, took inheritance, ran halfway across the world. But guess what? The father still was there to receive his son with open arms.
Exactly.
No matter how far we go and we stray in life, God is still there with his arms open wide. Don't be discouraged. Don't feel like, well, God, I've done all this X, Y, and Z. I'm not worthy. I mean, you gotta turn away from what you got going on. If you truly love him and care about his commandments and his word, he'll deliver you. But you gotta be willing to let him.
Right, exactly.
But you gotta be, and also you just gotta be, like, if you choose, to continue following the flesh or what you feel like you like, understand that there will be consequences, and you have to be okay with the fact that you're living your life like this. If you can truly look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I'm perfectly fine with this. God still loves you. Even if you make this choice to choose something else,
right?
He's not going to hate you. I mean, he hates sin,
right?
But he loves the sinner because we all were bought at a price.
Exactly. And I think what it is that a lot of us, we don't understand, like, it's real, you know what I'm saying?
It is real.
Because it's like, to just think of that word purchase is like, imagine the atonement for all sins, and it's like something that we still don't get, we still don't understand, it's still not being processed.
That word is powerful. Purchase,
Exactly.
To purchase something is to give up something in equal or greater value.
Exactly. Wow.
To purchase something, and for God to send his son to die for our transgressions, our sins, because he knew everything would be too much. He knew that following the Mosaic laws to the T, cutting a goat open every single time you lied or you killed something or you did something you wasn't supposed to. He knew.
All right. And we're back. So go ahead. Do you remember what you were saying before the thing cut off?
Let me go back.
I guess not.
I think we were kind of just like saying, like, I remember the last thing I was saying was more of like, as Christians, sometimes we feel like we have the Ezekiel complex where we have to tell people about God's law. Otherwise, we have their blood on their hands if they die in their sin. And I was saying pretty much like what I think, how we should interact with them.
Right.
It's more of just like letting people know what we represent, who we are, and pray. and just leave it at that, really. You know, and you know, at the end of the day, God's law still stands. You know, it's not going to go anywhere just because you don't want it to, you know, want to believe it. It's going to be there. God's law is still going to be there. And if we don't admit when we're wrong and try and get help, then we're going to die in our sin.
Exactly. And I mean, that's such an important thing to discuss, you know, because the thing is, like, we do have choices, but you know, something else just popped in my head, what you were talking about, how, you know, some people feel like they have to give in to their desires, right? But everything that may look good or feel good or feels good is not actually good. You know, it's very easy to be tempted and to come into temptation, but also you can overcome temptation. You know, in dealing with this issue, yes, we understand that it's a sin issue, but it's very deep. Now, we talk a lot about homosexuality, right? Yes, there are some people that may have grown up effeminate, or others that were sexually abused growing up and just didn't talk about it, and because of that whole confusion of who they should have been with sexually, when they got older, they ended up, you know, wanting to be or act like the opposite sex, and so all that stuff leads to confusion. So there's always different reasons, and the funny thing is, no one seems to think, right, that when we're talking about people that deal with homosexuality, that these aren't kids that were at least traumatized in some way by a family friend, a brother or a sister. These type of things happen. Yes, there are kids that you may see growing up that you can tell, okay, maybe he's a little bit effeminate and stuff like that. But then there's some people that when they get older, you can't even, like, you can't say the same thing because every case is different, you know. But we never talk about the cases of those people that were abused. So it's like, you got those that you can tell they have certain tendencies when they're young, and then there are those that out of nowhere, it's just something just pops up, you know. There was a woman by the name of Jackie Hill Perry who, when she was about 5 years old, she was sexually abused, and that caused a lot of confusion, you know. And by the time she was about 14, 15, she was dating young ladies in high school, you know, dressing like a guy and having the guise of a man. And then one day someone came and invited her to church, and slowly but surely, little by little, she started breaking out of that lifestyle. She started breaking out of that habit. And so it wasn't a thing about her dealing. It's not like it completely went away, but it just came to that point where, like, now she had an understanding of why this stuff was going on. And she knew, you know, her sexuality wasn't something that just came out of nowhere. It was caused by a situation, you know. And so she expressed in the interview that she did with the 700 Club, she had said that she still struggles. At this point, she was already married, and she had given birth to a baby girl. You know what I mean? But she said that she still struggles from time to time. This interview was from like 2014, I believe. You know, but the honesty that she gave, the transparency, because she wanted people to know, like, yes, it is. You can come out of this. It's possible, you know, but it is going to take some time. It's going to be a transformation, you know. And I've seen a lot of stories like that on the 700 Club, where a lot of people have broken out of that lifestyle, you know, just because simply someone cares, or someone invited them to church, or somebody was like, yo, come hang out with me here, you know, someone that actually showed them love. You see, here's the thing. When you show a person love and you show a person that you care about them, I think that makes them want to change even more, because they're like, okay, this is not somebody that's trying to shove religion down my throat. They're inviting me to come to church with them just to, you know, chill and to see what the atmosphere is like. They're not saying like, yo, you have to change. Because if that was the case, the church wouldn't have a lot of broken people. You got people that come to a church that are broken every week, You know, there's probably a woman that's getting beaten on a daily basis by her husband, and she has to use makeup to cover up the bruises on their faces. There's probably a child that's being sexually abused, you know, or they've had their leg broken, and they're still coming to church. The only time they get a chance to come out to church is when they're going with their aunt and uncle or their grandmother or grandfather, you know. So the church has a lot of broken people. And once we found out people's situations, we embrace them, but we don't embrace the person that's struggling with their sexuality. And then on top of that, to add insult to injury, make them want to leave and never come back again. The thing is that you always have to find out the root of the problem. If a person is willing to open up to you, then that shows that there's a beginning. But you can't force anybody to do anything. You understand what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Like the situation with Little Richard. Little Richard, from when he was young, he knew, you know, rest in peace. He had tendencies from when he was young. He knew it. His father knew it. His mother and his sisters and his brothers, they knew it, right? And for years, this is stuff that he would hide, you know, going around and sleeping around with different men and trying to have relationships with women, and knowing what he was doing was wrong, you know? And it came to a point where he got tired of that, and he ended up meeting a preacher, I believe his name was Joe Letcher, who used to be a famous R&B singer. He became a traveling evangelist. And so after that, you know, Little Richard started to get deep into the word. He got his degree in theology from Oakwood College, which is now university. And for a good minute, he gave up the world. Like, he stopped performing R&B and rock music and all these different things everywhere that he was going. If you watch his interview with David Letterman from 1982, he was just pushing God the whole time, and Dave was kind of trying to be like, okay, Richard, we hear you, but you know, we're interviewing the king of rock and roll. We're not interviewing Little Richard, the preacher, which I feel like that was the feeling that Dave had. Like, this guy's coming on here, I don't care about his testimony. As a matter of fact, Little Richard even admitted on that very program, and this was after a period of a couple of years that he had not been in the scene, that he was gay, and that God had restored him back to the man that he was supposed to be. You know what I mean? And lo and behold, like, what we didn't know was that although he had went back to the world, he was still doing music. He was still going to church on the Sabbath. He would tell people like, yo, I'm here to worship. I don't do autographs. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for God's word. And the fact that 3ABN was able to do their last interview with him, that just goes to the testament. It shows you that this man was really changed. And when we saw him, he looked so different without the hair and the makeup. And there was just something different about him. He didn't worry about the world anymore, because he had already gained the world. He had already gained the success. But it's like his story was the transformation in his life, you know? And he went through a lot and dealt with a lot as well. But at the end of the day, I feel like people can look at his story. As a matter of fact, I just want to say one more thing, because I don't want to say it, keep this too long. There was a clip that MTV had, right? At the time that Prince had released his movie Purple Rain. They were interviewing 3 people. Little Richard, Eddie Murphy, and Sheila E. And Little Richard was on there, and he did an interview. He was like, I just want to remind Prince where his gift came from. I have a Bible for him, and I have steps to Christ. When I saw that a couple of weeks ago, I was shocked. I was like, yo, Little Richard was really an evangelist. This was a dude that struggled with his sexuality for so many different years. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he decided like, yo, I got to go back to God. You know what I mean? God was the one that made me. I got to go back to Eden. I got to go back to what I was supposed to be, you know? And so, I mean, we always make fun of him, but it's like, yo, he struggled, you know what I mean? But he decided at the end of the day, like, yo, God made me as a man. He didn't make me to be feminine and all these different things and stuff. And it's so crazy. There was one YouTuber that after watching the interview that Little Richard did with 3ABN was like, yo, there's like, and I guess this individual was gay, and they were saying like, oh, Little Richard, you disappoint us. You know, we thought that you were for the community. Now you're saying that you've given it up. Like, that's not impossible. Once gay, always gay. Like, to me, I felt like it was a bunch of foolishness. Like, anybody can change their life. You know what I mean? If you want to go from being a crackhead to a Harvard graduate, it's possible. People may laugh when they hear a statement like that, but you can do it. There's nothing that's stopping you. Like, if you decide to one day, like, yo, I can't live my life like this anymore, I got to get off the drugs. Let me get into a rehab program. Let me get myself back into school. Let me do the things that I need to do in order to progress my life, because it's like, I'm still here for a reason. God wants me to be here. What am I doing with my life? So that's how I look at it. But that's my 2 cents.
Okay. I mean, that's a great view on it. Like you said, ultimately, it's just about your willingness to yourself, like, to want to see that change. I mean, if you really care about God's commandments, you really have a love for God, then if you willingly accept them, you can make changes in your life. It's not forever. It's like, I'm stuck with these habits, and you know, these habits are what we consider the temptations of the flesh.
Right.
You know, the Bible talks about we got to deny the yearnings of the flesh, and you know, follow in his footsteps.
Exactly.
I got one. I got a monkey wrench for you. I got a question for you. Throw everything off. So like, my question is, why are we so apologetic with homosexuals, but rapists and molesters get the hammer?
Woo! Oh my God, man. You know, this is a brilliant question. I want you to repeat it again, just for the people that may have not gotten a chance to watch this. If they're watching a rebroadcast, say that question one more time so that they can hear you. Say that one more time.
So my question is, why are we so apologetic to the homosexuals, but the rapists and the molesters get the hammer? Isn't it still a transgression? Isn't it still a sin? Isn't it still considered bad? Or why is one looked up as lighter than the other?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that one is lighter than the other. Rapists and murderers, these are people that in no way do I respect, and I don't condone their behavior at all, right? And there's some people that be like, some church people will probably be like, yo, nah, we have to learn how to forgive. Let me tell you something. If somebody went and raped your child, would you be worried about forgiving them, or would you want to go and retaliate?
Nope. I was about to cuss.
But like, what I'm saying, I say that because Christians have such a forgiving nature, but it's like, yo, you have to remember, there was times when God was like, yo, I'm about to turn this place up. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've done the forgiveness thing, but I'm about to turn this place up. I'm about to walk in here, and if in my father's house, and you're gambling, I'm turning them tables, I'm getting rid of the chickens, I'm doing everything. You know? So my thing is this. Like, when it comes to murderers and rapists, I don't forgive any of that stuff. And as far as it goes for being apologetic towards the LGBT community, you shouldn't have to be apologetic for your beliefs and how you feel. There's a difference between you having a conviction in your heart that you're not going to engage in that behavior or deal with anybody that engages in that behavior. That's fine. But it's another to verbally attack somebody, to argue with somebody on the internet, or to verbally bash somebody at church, because that is what they're doing. You see, the thing is, we can't control anybody's behavior. That's up to them. You got to leave that situation up to God. You know, you can be like, yo, you know what the word says and stuff, but it's not your job to go up to somebody and start screaming at them and yelling at them and waving the Bible in their face like, yo, it's right here. It's in the book. It's in the word. You can't do that. They're not going to hear you. You know, you can't yell in somebody's ear and expect for them to get a complete understanding of where you come from, Like me, I'm not apologetic when it comes to that issue. You know what I mean? It's like I have my own beliefs. It's not right. You know what I mean? At the same time, it ain't up to me to yell in your face, scream at you, and come at you with the Bible and all that. Obviously, if you have a conscience and you're coming to church, obviously you know there's something wrong with what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you are the one that's making this choice and deciding that this is what I want to do. So if you're coming to church and you have a conscience, then that already tells me like, yo, you already know that what you're doing is not on the up and up. You know, so at that point it's like, why am I going to explain to you if you already have your own understanding of it? You know, that's how I look at that situation. You know, and with murderers and rapists, I don't want anybody that's murderer sitting around me in church. Anybody that's rapist, pedophile, yo, you can go somewhere else, you know.
But what makes them different? Are they not still transgressions of the law?
Oh, of course.
Why is your view towards one different from the views of molesters and rapists?
Let me tell you something. And this is me. I don't know about how the church sees anything, but yeah, sin is sin. That's true. At the same time, I'm not having a pedophile sit with me. I'm not having a rapist sitting next to me or a murderer. You know, something shocked me about 2 years ago, right? There was a gentleman that used to work at my job, and we both worked in the same department. You know, he did music and stuff like that, and you know, he ended up leaving and stuff. But about a couple of months down the line, like probably maybe 5 or 6 months down the line, I went to go reach out to him on Facebook or whatever, and his name shows up in a police lineup. And it says that he sexually assaulted 2 of his kids, one of which is 2 years old, and the other one is a newborn. And when I found that out, the chill that went through my body, you know what I mean? Because this is a guy that everybody knew at the store as, you know, hard worker, chill, he would joke around, things like that. But none of us ever thought that this dude was capable of doing this stuff. And so when I found out, I was like, yo, and it's not like we kept in touch or constant communication, you know what I mean? But when I found that out, I was disgusted, you know? So it's like, people like that, they will never get a second chance with me, and they should never be involved in the church at all. You know, the thing that sickens me is that, you know, there was a story a couple of years back. Some Sunday church decided to hire a preacher that was a sex offender. So this is what they did. All the adults came to church and they left their kids at home because he could not be in the perimeter of children. You tell me how something like that is right. Because to me, it's not. That's sickening. Why would you even want somebody like that? But that goes to show you, right, that even in the church, even on the low, you have some people that are messed up like that in the head. And nobody will say anything. People will just pass it along like it's nothing. You can't tell me you made a conscious decision when you were thinking about this. Especially if this is a person that you know goes against everything that God stands for. They cannot deliver the word to me. They cannot speak to me. They can't preach. They can't tell me nothing. No, sir. And even with the Bishop Eddie Long situation, the amount of people that were so gullible, you know, like, oh, nah, he didn't do it. No, he did it. He assaulted those 3 boys sexually. He gave them money and he paid them off, you know. But the problem is that the church, what the church does, they tend to overlook issues like these and be like, oh, no, we can forgive it. No, you can't pray about situations like that. You can't pray about situations like that. Once you've done wrong, And once you've disrespected the church and everybody else in it, and you violated a child, you're dead to me. That's it. I'm not gonna have anything to do with you, you know. And you know, the funny thing is, a lot of gay people say, right? They're like, yo, y'all let this and this and this and this pass. Yes, but here's the other thing. It doesn't mean that because this stuff is passed or we don't talk about it, it doesn't mean that it's right, you know, because we don't really talk about, you know, sexual abuse. We talk about physical abuse in church, but we never really talk about how to deal with someone if you end up having a pedophile in your church. These are things that we don't talk about, but it's something that needs to be expressed and needs to be discussed because it does happen. You know, I've had friends tell me stories about stuff that I would never think would happen in the church, but it's like, yo, it happens in other churches. It's got to happen here. It's possible. These things take place. It's just that it's not talked about in an open forum, you know? And it's like, you know, just like this issue that we've been discussing tonight, it's something that hits close to home for some people, you know, because sometimes they may actually have somebody, a friend or a coworker that they know that's dealing with that, and they can't talk about it. If it's a friend, you know, it's worse because it's like, how do you reach out to that person without hurting their feelings? Here's the thing: no matter what you say, you're always going to offend, but you got to speak the truth at all times. You can't be afraid to say what's on your mind. I'm not saying like, yo, go off the deep end and be disrespectful. No, say what you want to say in your own way, but just know that whatever you do say will have its consequences at the end of the day. So we got to be very careful with how our language is spoken, you know, because what I realize is that a lot of people like to sugarcoat stuff and be like, well, you know, you can't do that. No, just be like, no, this is how it is. This is what's happening. You can't sugarcoat things, you know?
I agree. And sometimes we pick and choose what we want to go against because it's convenient sometimes.
Right.
We're like social justice warriors or moral police, and we only engage when we feel like it's convenient.
Right,
to
exactly.
us.
And the thing is that we can't always pick and choose. There are issues that are going on that we have to discuss, you know. Yes, there are people in the church that deal with mental illness. Don't be like, oh, they're being attacked by demons. No, it's called mental illness for a reason. Something mentally is not right with them, you know. And so we don't like to talk about it. Like there was a case years ago where someone ended up passing away, and you know, some people have suspected that like, yo, this person was dealing with mental illness, but we dare not talk about it as to not offend the family. But I'm pretty sure the family knows in their own heart, like, yo, yeah, they were dealing with XYZ, you know. So it's like you gotta speak on things when you see it, you know. We gotta talk about a lot of issues. Like I appreciate now that I'm older in church, things are, you know, talked about a little bit more, but there's still some issues that we gotta get into. You know what I mean? Like the church, I know the church doesn't necessarily talk about drugs because I'm pretty sure the kids already know or are well informed. But for those that are not well informed, for those that are not paying attention, you know, it's important for you to talk about, you know, cocaine or marijuana or PCP, Percocet, you know, Xanax, Molly. It's important to talk about all these things because the thing is, if you're growing up in the church, you can't sugarcoat for the youth. They're going to find out one way or another. You know, I mean, I remember there was an episode of Good Times where Walona didn't want to tell Penny that her friend was pregnant at 13 and told her that she had stomach bumps. That's stupid. Tell the girl the truth, like, yo, your friend is pregnant. You can't hide certain things from kids. You know what I mean? Just like how Sarita and TD Jake's daughter ended up getting pregnant at 13. And of course, the family was ashamed because this guy is a big time preacher on television and everybody knows him. And for them, it's probably like shame. But at the end of the day, her parents had to find out the best way to deal with the situation. And they helped her to raise her son. And I believe now she's 30 something, but I guarantee you, you know, just because her father was preaching sermons about sex to other people, it doesn't mean that he was necessarily preaching to her about it. We think that because our kids hear something in church or hear something here or there when they're in sex ed class that, okay, they're going to understand like, yo, you got to know X, Y, Z and about diseases, STDs, and what happens if if you get pregnant and all this stuff. No, sometimes kids are not paying attention. Matter of fact, no, kids are not paying attention at all, period. So there comes times where you're going to have to teach certain lessons and talk about certain things that you may not even want to discuss. But it's going to come to a point where your kids are going to want to know and they're going to want to ask you questions. You got to be able to speak on it. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people right now are afraid. That's why I particularly wanted to have this discussion, because we've never had any youth come to the church or that were in the church that were part of that LGBT group and that have expressed how they felt. I honestly feel that if there is a program that discusses that or talks about that, there could be more open dialogue. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these kids, they're trying to find themselves. They don't even know who they are. They think they know at 12 and 13, but what they really need and truly need is guidance. They need someone that's going to pray for them. They need someone that at the end of the day, if they can't go home after service is over to a hot meal, that they'll have them over to their house. So just someone to be there for them, when they're going through something. Because the thing about the church is that we got a lot of fathers and mothers in the church, spiritual fathers and mothers that really look after the kids that are not even their own, but those people end up becoming their parents more, because it's like, yo, if the kid is there 24/7, or that is their place where they can go and hang out and stuff like that, then that's those are people there that we can trust, that they can trust. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, you know how it was when we were growing up. You got this one and that one. Like, we had that community of people where it was like, yo, if we were dealing with something or dealing with an issue, we could have them fight on our behalf. I don't know if churches have that nowadays, or if they're even adults that are willing to stand up for the kids, but we need to have something like that where it's like, yo, you come into my house this Sabbath, like we're having dinner, or yo, come on vacation with me, or yo, I'm about to go down the street to go get some food. You want something to eat? Just little things like that, that can make a kid's day where it's like, okay, well, actually there's someone that does care and that wants to see me do good in life and is willing to pray for me, But that's that's my 2 cents on that.
Nah, you good, bro. Good, man. I think that's all I got.
Well, normally, guys, this would have been the portion where everybody was able to come in and ask questions, and I apologize for not being able to share the link. Facebook has banned me for 7 days. So a lot of you probably will not see this video until next week. But for those that were able to come in and watch the video live on Zoom, I really appreciate it. Once again, I want to thank Jordan Taylor for being here, for facilitating the discussion. And, hopefully we can come back again the next time with another topic.
I'll be thinking.
If there's anything that you guys want us to talk about, please let us know. Feel free to inbox us. You can hit me up on IG, at di.m.c, you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's it. That's all I got to say. But you got any last words, man?
Nah, man. That's all I got. That's really all I got.
Okay, well, once again, I want to thank you guys for joining us. Everybody have a safe night. All right. Peace and love. We out.